Welcome back. As always, I am Zach Lane, aka Judge Zed, aka Zacharias the Pious of House Lane, first of his name, former Lord of Give a Shit Ashir, Harbinger of Sass, and Holy Prince of the Sea of Ash, and Lord of the Game. And today that game is the only one whose maze craze plays for days in ways that will amaze days and set characters ablaze. Dungeon Crawl Classics. Now, if you've been following this series, we've already talked about the classes, we've talked about the level 0 funnel, and we've talked about the demi-humans, the demi-human classes as well. Now we are going to move on to the continuation of our combat section. Last week we talked about initiative. I brought up some fun ways that you can do initiative a little bit differently in your games, if you so choose. And yeah, I think we're about ready to move on here. We're going to talk about combat actions, types of combat, armor class, attack rolls, fumbles, critical hits, damage, and death. And that's just on this 1-2 page spread. This is quicker and easier rules than you're used to in 5th edition, 3.5, or probably even 2nd edition D&D. They really made it slick. They made it as slick as a Michael Moorcock novel. And that is really, really saying something if you've ever read anything by him. They're quick-moving fantasy novels that really pack a punch. Love them. Moving on. Combat actions. Zoom in here so y'all can read along at home. Combat actions. At low-level play, characters have one action each round expressed as an action die, which is a d20. Each round a character or monster may move its normal speed and do one thing for each of its action die. The actions a character takes depend on their class. So, all characters can take another movement for their actions. So, instead of being like, I'm going to move 30 feet in this dungeon and just stop, because I guess I have to stop, you'd be like, I'll move again, I'll move 60 feet instead of doing another thing. A warrior can make an attack for each of his actions, rolling a d20 for the first one and a different die for the second, generally a d14 or a d16. So warriors at higher levels get additional actions at higher levels. Wizards can attack or cast spells with the first die and can only cast a spell with the second action die. So a wizard with a second action die at 5th level and beyond, or maybe at 6th level. I'm not 100%. Well, either way, you can only cast a spell with the second action die, and it's almost always going to be a lower action die. I think maybe until you're level 10, you get 2 d20s to cast 2 spells in one round. You madman, you monster. How did you do it? And so on, according to class description. So your classes, in the core rulebook, because this is all conjecture. You're not going to get a second action die in the first 2 levels of this game. This is all just to teach you what to expect when you buy the core rulebook. That's kind of another reason why all these rules are so slimmed down. That being said, the combat section of the book is very slim, and the majority of it is just deeper descriptions into different mighty deeds that the warrior can do, like weapon-based mighty deeds, examples of how a blinding strike table might look, but, they're all suggestions. Spell casting can sometimes take longer than one action. An action spent casting a spell either completes the spell, if it can be cast in one action, or contributes towards a total casting time if the spell requires more actions to cast. So some spells might take a round to cast. There are spells that take weeks to cast. To bond with a patron, to summon a familiar, this stuff takes a long time. This is not, you're not going to summon your familiar, or you might summon your familiar from your pocket or something, like during a battle. You're not going to summon your familiar, you're not going to cast a spell summon familiar to summon a new familiar for yourself after your familiar dies in the same battle. It's just never going to happen. And I like that. That's always a good thing. In other words, a normal level 0 character with one action can move and attack once each round. A monster with action dice of a d20 plus d16 can do any of the following combinations in one round. Move only, move once, then attack once with a d20, move, then attack once with a d20, then attack again with a d16, or simply stand and attack once with a d20, or a second time with a d16. So, pretty simple. You can spend your action die, you can spend your move. You always get a move and at least one action. You can choose to move more, but it seems like the move The double, it seems like you can't spend, if you have 3 action die, it doesn't seem like you can spend all 3 for moves. It seems like you either get your double move or a single move, and the double move is gonna burn 1 action die. So, other activities that take time to complete as follows. Draw or sheath a weapon. Takes 1 action, but can be included as part of a movement action. So what I do is I cost, instead of saying this costs an action, I say this costs a certain number of feet for your movement. Equip or drop a shield, open a door. I'm saying these things are probably 5 feet. You know, your free actions in 5th edition, I replace it with, I say 5 feet. You know, I'm not going to be able to drink Mountain Dew and walk at the same time. For the same distance as if I wasn't also drinking Mountain Dew at the same time. That's just basic biology or physics or whatever. Like, the whole free action economy, like, doesn't totally make sense. I do a foot economy, and I make you spend your movement. So if you want to stand and then unsheath your sword, that's going to cost you 20 feet of movement. And if you're a dwarf, that's all your movement. Right? Although I do technically say standing costs half. So if you're a dwarf, I would say that's 10, that's 15. You have 5 foot. You have 1 square you can move and then stab someone. And then shield bash because you're a dwarf. So things that cost a full action are going to be lighting a torch or a lantern, uncork a potion, or unfurl a scroll. So again, yeah, I'm going to like open this potion. I'm going to pull out, first I'm going to get the potion out of my bag. I'm going to uncork it, and then I'm going to drink it while walking over here. Like, it's taking a lot. There's an action economy you got to keep an eye on here. It's your job as the judge to do that. Locate an item in a backpack is another action. So apparently locating an item in a backpack is its own action. So pulling a potion out of the pack, unless you have a little potion bandolier, that's going to cost you a full action. I haven't thought about forcing my players to do that. That's actually really evil, and I love it. Stand up from prone position is 1 action. I do half your movement speed for that. Maybe I shouldn't, but I think that half your movement speed is fair. It is a big hindrance in a battle, especially a rolling one. But yeah, read a scroll, drink a potion is 1 action. Mount or dismount a steed is 1 action as well. So, little different here. I didn't expect to drink a potion to be a full round action. Or no, it's not full round action, it's just 1 action. So technically you could use your action die on drinking a potion and then attack with one of the other ones. I would say it would, you'd probably be forced to use your first action. So if you're trying to like move, quaff a potion and attack in the same round, like you're gonna roll a d16, and you can only do it if you have multiple dice. So again, the action economy is your job to take care of, your job to adjudicate as the judge. These are some rough guidelines, and that's how these rules work. Types of combat. When creatures fight within an arm's reach, generally considered 5 feet for man-sized creatures, it is considered melee combat. Strength modifies melee combat and melee damage rolls. When creatures fight beyond arm's reach, it is considered missile combat. Agility modifiers modify missile combat. Agility modifiers, missile fire attacks. I do not believe that agility modifiers damage at all. Agility does not modify damage unless you're using a specific weapon that says it does. Armor class is determined by armor, shield, agility, and magical modifiers. An unarmored peasant is AC 10 minus this is the baseline level. Armor class increases with improved defensive capability. So wearing armor increases a character's armor class. For example, wearing leather armor takes a character's AC from 10 to 12. Armor class decreases with reduced defensive capability. So a character with negative agility modifier has a lower AC. For example, a character with -2 agility modifier has a baseline armor class reduced from 10 to 8. So your agility is always affecting your armor class. And a negative agility is going to bring your base 10 down to an 8, maybe even a 7. Agility modifies the defender's armor class for all kinds of combat. However, the defender must be able to maneuver in order to receive this modifier. If he's balancing on a pillar, climbing a wall, bound in rope, or otherwise constrained, the defender is not agile enough to receive the bonus from his agility modifier. So, this is like, again, not codified as such, but this is kind of describing the logic behind a flat-footed armor class. And keep that in mind when you're doing this. I haven't been applying that. I haven't even been thinking about it. I was like, oh, good, it's a game that I don't have to worry about flat-footed. But now I'm realizing, like, no, flat-footed is something I should be thinking about with these combats. The attacker rolls his action die, usually 1d20, and adds his attack bonus. He also adds any bonuses from spells, magic, items, or class abilities, such as a thief's backstab ability. If the attack is made with a melee weapon, he adds his strength bonus. If the attack is made with a missile weapon, he adds his agility bonus. This roll is compared to the defender's armor class. If the roll is equal to or higher than the defender's armor class, the defender is wounded. Oh! Ties do not go to the defender. That is something that is very important. I have not been ruling that correctly. I've been ruling that ties go to the defender. If the roll is equal to or higher than the defender's armor class, the defender is wounded. Yes. Okay. All right. That's why I'm doing this series, because we're all gonna learn. Ties go to the defender. No more. No more. No more. Modifiers to attack rolls are shown on table 1-4. We can look at that in a second. Can we look at that right now? Is that over here? Yes. All right. Here we go. This is important. So we're gonna look at some of these. You're gonna notice that some of these use that -1d. So missile fire range. You got your short range. You're fine. Medium range. Missile fire. You got a -2. Long range is -1d. If the attacker's invisible, you got some melee stuff. On high ground, melee you get +1. Squeezing through tight space. I say high ground you get plus if you're using missile fire as well, but that's just me. High ground, squeezing through tight space, you get -1d if you're attacking. Entangled, you're at -1d. Using an untrained weapon, you're at -1d. Firing a missile into melee, you're at -1. Also, you have a 50% chance of friendly fire if the attack misses. Which is rare, actually. I always roll this and it hasn't happened yet. I'm still waiting. Defender is behind cover, you got a -2. Blinded, you got +2. Entangled, you're at +1d to hit them. So if you're entangled, you're at -1d to attack, but everyone else gets +1 to hit you, or +1d to hit you. Helpless, paralyzed, sleeping, bound, same thing as entangled. Everyone gets a +1d to hit you. And if you're kneeling, sitting, or prone, everybody is at a +2 to hit you if they're doing melee, but if they're trying to hit you with missile fire, they're at a -2. So keep that in mind. If your players land on the ground, that doesn't mean all the orcs can suddenly shoot their missiles at him and hit automatically or hit with a bonus. Alright, fumbles. On a natural roll of 1 is a fumble. A fumble automatically misses. The attacker must then roll the appropriate die, which we saw in the armor section on the fumble table, with the result adjusted by the attacker's luck modifier. Unarmored characters roll 1d4. Others roll according to their armor as indicated on table 3-4, which we talked about earlier, and I showed you. Fumbles. A natural roll of 1 is a fumble. Fumbles automatically miss and the attacker must roll on the fumble table because lower is better on fumble table rolls. The roll is modified by the reverse of the character's luck. For example, a +1 luck modifier becomes a -1 on the fumble table roll. The type of die rolled is determined by the attacker's armor as follows. Warriors and dwarves, and only warriors and dwarves, may burn 1 point of luck to cancel a fumble. Ooh! I didn't know that was a thing at all. It still results in a miss, but by burning point of luck, they can avoid further negative effects. That's really cool. I didn't know that. That's super neat. I'm going to use that. The die rolled on the fumble table depends on the character's armor. 1d16 if wearing heavy armor, 1d12 if wearing moderate armor, 1d8 if wearing light armor, 1d4 if wearing no armor. See table 3-4 for armor modifiers to fumble die. So yeah, we all know about the fumble die, and I'll show you that table when we get to that page. But critical hits on a d20 roll, a natural 20 is a critical hit. A natural 20 automatically hits, and the attacker must roll his crit die on the appropriate critical hit table, with the result adjusted by his luck modifier. Critical dice and the table are determined by class and level. Refer to the character class tables. All level 0 characters roll 1d4 on crit table 1. So we'll probably take a look at these crit tables. I'm not going to read the tables. I honestly never read the tables. Ever. Just about. If there's I might peruse a rumor table to see if there's one or two I want to pick out to drop on a player as a foreshadowing of a future adventure, but for the most part, like, I'll read if it's a random encounter table and I need to know what these monsters are, like, I'll read that, but for the most part, I let the tables surprise me at the table. That the tables are for the table. That's what, I don't know how else to say it. Alright, I thought I just goofed everything up real hard there. Damage and death. If a defender is wounded, the attacker rolls for damage. Roll the appropriate die for that weapon. If the attack was made with a melee weapon, add the attacker's strength bonus. Add the bonus due to spells, magic items, or class abilities. Deduct this value from the defender's hit points. A successful attack always inflicts a minimum of 1 point of damage, even if the attacker has a negative strength modifier. A character or monster dies when it reaches 0 hit points. Okay. So this is the basic function of all role-playing games, no matter what kind you're playing. You roll to hit, and if you hit, you do damage. If you miss, you don't do damage. But if you hit, you do damage, and that damage is taken away from the hit point total of the creature that you're facing. So if you're using this as your 101 Crash Course series to any RPG, that's how that functions. And this is probably the best role-playing game for introducing new players to role-playing games if you have no idea what it is. It's just so simple and slick, and it really gives you a good idea of how this would work. Is it going to make you better at playing Skyrim? No. But is it going to make you better at playing like Final Fantasy? Yeah, maybe a little bit. It might give you a good frame of reference. So personally for me, I was unable to read The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings until I played D&D because I had like a frame of reference for what all of this like dungeon delving stuff was for the first time in my life, and I had a reason to believe. I had a suspension of disbelief that like I could believe that like 13 dwarves going into a dungeon would be a good idea. Alright, so now we're talking about bleeding out. So if a character is reduced to 0 hit points, there's a chance of saving them. By healing them very quickly, such as with a Cleric's ability to lay on hands. A level 0 character that reaches 0 hit points is irrevocably killed, but a first level character that reaches 0 hit points collapses and begins bleeding out. Such a character has 1 round in which they can be healed to prevent their death. So if he is healed on the round he is reduced to 0 hit points, or the next round he is healed per the result of the lay on hands check, treat his hit points as starting at 0. If he is not healed before the second round, he may be permanently killed, see below. If a character that was bleeding out was saved, a character that was bleeding out was saved suffers permanent physical trauma from his near fatal injuries. Anyone who is saved from bleeding out suffers permanent loss of 1 point of stamina. In addition, he gains a terrible scar from the wound that downed him. This is a newish rule. I thought that it was 1 point of physical attribute that's taken, but it does look like it's stamina here. That's very interesting. That makes a lot of sense actually. That gives you like a number of lives for your character before you're just like spent. So that's good to know. Recovering the body. If the body of a dead ally can be recovered, there is a chance that they may not truly be killed. He may have just been knocked unconscious or simply stunned. If a character reaches a dead ally's body within 1 hour, the dead character may make a luck check when his body is rolled over. On a successful check, the dead character was badly injured but not permanently killed, and the ally was able to keep him alive. The dead character was simply knocked out or stunned, or otherwise incapacitated. Once an ally shakes the downed character awake, he recovers 1 hit point. The character is groggy for the next hour, -4 penalty to all rolls, and sustains a permanent injury of some kind, as reflected as a permanent -1 penalty to strength, agility, or stamina determined randomly. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Wow, it's whether you recover in the body or otherwise, you're going to be struggling. So I am having some monitor issues on my TV here. It's flickering pretty bad, but I do want to cover some of these tables real quick. Again, we're not going to read them all. I'm just going to briefly cover them. So this is the Fumble Table. You roll a die depending on your armor, and then you subtract any positive luck modifiers that you are dealing with. It can be anything from your weapon breaking to your wild swing leaves you off balance, take a -4 to your next attack roll. It gets worse the higher up you go. You accidentally strike yourself for normal damage plus an extra 1 point. In addition, you fall on your back and you're unable to right yourself until you make a DC 16 agility check. That's ugly. You don't want that to happen, especially if that agility check is going to be modified by like a -8 because you're in full plate armor, which is about the only way you could get that high on the that table. Crit table 1 for all level 0 characters and all wizards. See the DCC core rulebook for additional entries, so you only get 1 through 6, which I think is pretty accurate. I think wizards only get to roll a d6 on this table at 2nd level. So table 2, you get all your thieves and elves, and this is up to level 12 because again, I don't think you get a high enough die in this version of the game. And then I think this is going to be your warriors. Yes, warriors, dwarves, clerics, and halflings are going to use this table. It's a very, very strong martial table. These footnotes apply to crits where indicated. Magical weapons never break due to critical fumbles. The target is disarmed instead, the weapon landing 1d10 plus 5 feet away. A PC overcome by battle rage may temporarily expend points of his personality or intelligence to score enhance. It's going to enhance the damage on his critical hit. For every ability point he expends, he adds 1d12 to his damage rolls. Gross. Ability score lost in this way return as the warrior heals. Each day thereafter, when he does not succumb to a battle rage, he recovers 1 point of the affected ability score. This rate is doubled if the character rests. So battle rage is a critical ability now, along with some other very crazy stuff. Healing. This is another way the game is very deadly. Wounds are healed with rest. A healed character can never exceed his natural hit point maximum. A character who actively adventures and gets a good night's rest heals 1 hit point. If the character gets a day of bed rest, he heals 2 hit points per night. So I do increase this a little bit. Like if you're in a big city and you're at like the nicest like rich people nobleman hotel and you're paying like, a few silvers a night, maybe even as high as a gold piece, you'll get +3. And if you're staying in like a king's bed, it's +4. You know what I mean? But for the most part, characters will never reach that. They'll never get to that point. And if they do, it's only for a night or 2. Critical hits heal when the associated damage heals. For example, imagine the character takes -10 penalty to speed due to a kneecap strike that has also inflicted 10 extra points of damage. The wounded kneecap and associated speed penalty heals when the character has recovered 4 hit points. Note that some critical hit results may create permanent injuries, which can only be healed by magical or extraordinary means. So this is something that I wasn't aware of. But on almost all of the crit hit tables, it does give you an extra damage dice of damage to go along with your critical hit effect. If you've taken a critical hit by a monster or a human or whatever, even a dragon or a giant, you probably won't live, but if you do, you are not healed from that specific injury until you heal that amount of damage that you've been given. So that it could be a night if you just take 1 extra point, but it could be much longer. Broken bones and stuff in Lonkmar, because there are no clerics in Lonkmar. I don't think there's clerics in Empire of the East either. Broken bones take months to heal. So yeah, it can be, you gotta worry about that kind of stuff. Ability score loss, except for luck, heals at the same rate. 1 point with a good night's rest, 2 points with a day of bed rest. Characters may heal both agility score loss and hit point loss on the same night's rest. Look at that. Except with luck. Does not heal. Repeat, lost luck does not heal. Except for special abilities of halflings and thieves, a character who burns luck does so permanently. Luck can be restored in the same way that a man normally gains good or bad luck, by appealing to the gods. Great acts of courage in defense of one's deity may earn a boon, just as acts of opposition to a devil may earn a curse. The judge can tell you more about luck. So it is totally up to you. Personally, I use carousing, because it's fun. It's a fun story thing. It's a great way to get rid of your player's money. It's a great way to add some story elements, and it's just a really fun way to start off a session with like all the characters being hung over and like dealing with what happened last night. Like honestly, having a session begin like one of the Hangover movies is not a bad way to start a session of D&D or any role-playing game for that matter. So let's move on here from luck, because luck is really cool, and healing luck and stuff, but yeah, it's up to you as how you want to do it. Lankmar does give you carousing rules to regenerate luck. And then when I have those rules in play, I do allow the gods to increase your max luck, which is kind of cool. Saving throws. Saving throws represent a character's ability to resist extraordinary trauma, whether it's poison, magical flame, or a dangerous trap. A character's class and ability scores determine their saving throw modifiers for fortitude, reflex, and will. To make a saving throw, roll 1d20 and apply the character's modifier. If the roll is equal to or greater than the target DC, the saving throw succeeds, otherwise it fails. So if you're not familiar with role-playing games or saving throws, they're a little bit different in the case that, in a lot of old school cases, saving throws were rolled by the judge. The judge would have your saving throw matrix, and they might be like, what level are you again? You're level 2? Okay, and then they'd roll behind the screen, and then they'd tell you what happens, because the saving throw is not your character's action. It is your character's reaction to something else. So keep that in mind. If rocks fall, that's a reflex save. If your character is trying to keep themselves from being crushed, that's fortitude. Fortitude's also for poison. Yeah, there's a lot of different applications. Will saves are usually to realize someone's lying to you or to realize you're being affected by magic. But all of this stuff can be affected by luck. As noted earlier, a character can permanently burn luck to give a one-time bonus to a roll. For example, a character could burn 6 points to get a +6 modifier on a roll, but his luck score is now 6 points lower. The following rules govern the burning of luck. So, a character can burn luck only to affect their own dice roll, except for halflings, as noted in their class description. Luck cannot be burned to affect the dice roll of other characters or monsters, even if they affect the character. Note that the character's luck modifier does not apply to enemy crits against him, but this luck modifier is different from burning off luck. Luck is typically used to affect a character's attack rolls, damage rolls, spell checks, thief checks, and saving throws, but it can also be used for other purposes. A character can declare his intent to burn luck before or after his die roll. Oh, okay. I thought it was only after, but yeah, you can do it before. They then specify how many points he will burn, but he can only burn luck once per roll. Good to know. Magic comes from the gods. This is the magic section. This is gonna be a little. We're gonna get into it here. Buckle up. Magic comes from gods, demons, and extra plenier forces who are capricious and unconcerned with your character's fly-speck of a life. Those who would use magic are best served to always have a backup plan. Summoning magical energies is arduous, expensive, and dangerous. No mortal does it lightly, and as a result, in DCC RPG, there are no mundane magics, no spells used simply to light a corridor, for example. Use a torch. It's much safer. You're not going to find a magic shop with bags of holding on sale. You're not going to find a +1 sword in a big metropolis city, just sitting on the shelf. No matter how much gold it costs, you're going to have to get that from a dungeon. You're going to have to pry that from the very claws of death itself, and then you're going to have to bring that back up to the surface world so that you can reap its benefits, if it's not cursed. Kinds of magic. Wizards and clerics tap into different kinds of magic. Wizards specialize in the better-known fields of black magic, elemental magic, and enchantment. Clerics receive the direct assistance of their gods in a style of magic called idle magic, or clerical magic. The terms are interchangeable in this rulebook, it would seem, which may or may not be similar to the powers of wizards and elves. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, idle magic may or may not be, okay. So it may or may not be different. Sometimes there are spells that are shared, but if you're casting a wizard casting a cleric spell receives an extra negative to that modifier, or I forget exactly how it works. There can be crossovers though. Black magic is learned from demons, lips. Elemental magic includes invocations relating to earth, air, fire, and water, including the energies and other forms associated with them, such as light, fog, and flight. Enchantments, also known as white magic, is the most mundane of the magics and is grounded in the overlap of the material plane of existence with other planes. Idle magic, or divine magic, is any magic granted by the worship of a god or other higher power. Most clerics practice idle magic. So, keeping that in mind as we move in here. So the spell system is the coolest part of DCC RPG. Spell checks. You probably haven't seen one of these since maybe 3.5. When your character casts a spell, you roll 1d20 and add your caster level. This is called a spell check. You also add your personality modifier if you are a cleric, or your intelligence modifier if you are a wizard. Wizards also apply modifiers for wearing bulky armor, and there may be other modifiers specific to certain situations. Compare the results to the casting table for that spell. In general, your spell succeeds if your spell check is equal to or higher than the base DC of 10 plus times 2 spell level. The higher you roll, the more extraordinary result according to the casting table. So, level 1 spell, you got to get at least a 12. Level 2 spell, you got to get at least a 14, and so forth. Up until level 5 spells, you got to get at least a 20. A novice wizard cannot cast magic beyond his comprehension, but he may attempt to cast a spell of level he has learned. This means he may attempt to cast a spell where he suffers significant chance of failure, based on his spell check modifier. If he judges the attempt worthwhile, so be it. But there will be consequences to failure. Critical successes and fumbles. A spell check result of natural 20 is a critical success. The caster receives an additional bonus to his check equal to his caster level. Compare to the casting table for that specific spell result. So what this means specifically is if you roll a natural 20 as a level 1 wizard, you add +2 instead of a +1. You double your effective caster level for that casting of the spell. This gets exponentially better if you're a level 5 caster. You're going to get a +10, which if you rolled like you already rolled a natural 20. So you're going to get a 30, which is probably max result or close enough to it that you can just burn a couple points of luck and get there. A spell check result of a natural 1 is always a failure. A result of 1 may also result in spell corruption or deity disapproval. There's a lot of bad things that happen when you roll 1 on a spell check. Most recently in my game, Olsolva and Bauchicha were facing off against an Iguanadillo, a iguana armadillo hybrid of the dire variety. And due to this going on, they roll their wizard, Desi, rolled a 1 on the enlarged check and accidentally, instead of making one of their allies larger, made the Iguanodillo even bigger, giving it more hit points and a bonus to its strength that offset the mighty deed of the warrior during that battle, and then some. So they got set back quite a ways during that fight because of a 1 on the magic check. All right, moving on. I'm going to take a quick pause here. All right, so last bit, concentration. Some spells require concentration. While concentrating, a wizard or cleric can take no action beyond walking at half speed. Combat damage, fall, or other significant interruptions require the spellcaster to make a will save against DC 11 or lose concentration. So that's interesting. It's a static DC 11 to not be distracted by taking damage, which I think that's pretty forgiving for this game, to be completely honest. I don't even know if I would do that, but as the judge, you get the final say in what you want to do here. Spell checks by other classes. Foolish warriors have been known to read magical scrolls in dangerous attempts to wield magic. A warrior, thief, or other character untrained in magic may attempt to cast spell from magical instructions he encounters. A character from an untrained class rolls a d10 for the spell check instead of a d20. It does not add any modifier for an ability score or caster level. A trained thief may roll higher die as per his class abilities. So that's kind of interesting too. Saving throws against spells. In general, a saving throw against a spell uses the DC equal to the spell check. For example, a color spray cast with a spell check result of 17 requires a will save of 17 or higher to resist. If the spell does not specify a specific DC for a save, the save is made against the spell check result. So sometimes a spell result will be like, oh, it's DC 15 for this result. Otherwise, it'll be like, no, you just use whatever result you got on the spell check. Reversing spells. Some spells can be reversed to perform the opposite function for which they were intended. For example, mending can be reversed to tear an object, or enlarge can be reversed to shrink an object. Although spell reversals sound simple and straightforward as a concept, think about it in practical terms. It's not that easy. To use an analogy, can you uncook a chicken pot pie by following the instructions in reverse? No. Magic cannot simply be reversed. To reflect the difficulty of reversing spellcasting in practical terms, reverse spells require the caster to make the spell check with the lowest die in the dice chain? Oh, with the next lowest die in the dice chain. So you're just at minus 1d, is what it's trying to say. You're not rolling a d3. You're just rolling one less die. Spell burn. The rule that has its own podcast named after it. A very good podcast, by the way. A magic user can harness more magical energies if they are willing to make mortal sacrifice, including offering part of their body or soul to a demon, sacrificing their own personal strength to fostering a demigod's greedy growth, or even by burning the very life energy in his own cells. Before rolling any spell check, a wizard may declare that he will attempt to spell burn. In attempting spell burn, the wizard temporarily expends points of his strength, agility, or stamina score to enhance his spell check. For every ability point he expends, the wizard adds +1 to the spell check. For example, a wizard in a life or death situation may need absolute certainty that the next spell functions. He calls to an archdemon whom he has past dealings. In offering the demon a share of his life force, he trades 7 points of strength to give himself a +7 bonus to his next spell check. Here's a literary example of that. Gandalf versus the Balrog. If Gandalf again, great wizard, didn't have a lot of offensive spells. Even if he did, casting magic missile against this thing is not a guaranteed bet. But what is smoting the bridge upon which it stands. And so Gandalf casts Shatter, and Gandalf burns 20 points of ability, effectively killing him in the process. Why he couldn't, climb back up on the thing. He was too weak. He was too weakened from that spell. It cost him everything. And he fell back down with the Balrog. So, that's what happens in DCC. If you really need this spell to pop off with its maximum effect that you can cast, you can burn 20 points of ability and guarantee that you get a critical. This is effectively killing your character. You're gonna lose hit points if you're burning your stamina. You're gonna lose your ability to walk if you're burning your agility and strength down to 3. Below 3, you die without medical intervention, basically. Without a cleric to help you, if you go below 3, you pretty much die instantly. Not always instantly, but like you die. You're unable to take care of yourself in a meaningful way, and you cease to be a functioning character in an adventure type setting. And that can be really difficult. But it can also be super. I mean, if your character sacrificed themselves for the good of the party, like Gandalf did, then you deserve the same kind of respect that Gandalf got, in my opinion. And I'm going to pop. Ability scores lost via spell burn heal back at the rate of 1 point per day that the caster does not. I don't understand. Ability score lost via spell burn heal back at the rate of 1 point per day that the caster does not spell burn again. So long that the caster does not spell burn again. You can't spell burn and gain points back in the same day, apparently. Automatic criticals. There is one additional option for spell burn. Wizard who sacrifices a full 20 points of ability score in one fell swoop automatically treats his next spell result as a roll of a natural 20. So that's how you can pop off. That's how a level 1 wizard can burn down a whole village with a fireball spell, basically. And thank you for making a game where that's possible. I really appreciate that. Thank you for making a game where a level 1 wizard can accidentally burn down a village with the fireball spell. That's what I really want to see. Spell casting is draining. This is losing and regaining spells. Spellcaster, they can exert themselves a finite number of times in one day before they are exhausted and unable to cast another spell, similar to how it works in D&D. Depending on the kind of magic this can be a reflection of mental recall, godly favor, access to a demon plane, soul drain, or other factors. Each spellcasting table will indicate lost or not lost in each result entry. A result of lost means your character cannot cast that spell for the rest of the day. So this functions like in D&D you have spell slots where, I can cast like 5 level 1 spells a day, or I can cast, 1 level 2 spell a day, or 2 level 2 spells a day, however it ends up working. But in DCC, you basically, I call it the shoot until you miss style of spell casting. Until you roll low enough that the rules say that you lost the spell, you can keep casting that spell kind of as much as you want. So 2 more things after this that we're going to cover, and then I'll do some quick recaps of these tables. Not lost means the character retains the use of that spell. Generally, only wizard spells are lost when the casting fails. So generally, there are some exceptions where there's like a little window where you fail the spell but you don't lose it, but for the most part, yeah, it's not like that. Clerics suffer a different difficulty. Each time a cleric fails to cast a spell, he suffers a cumulative increase to their natural disapproval range for the balance of the day. More information on this penalty can be found in the cleric class description in my first video or in the beginning of this PDF. In general, spells are regained within a day of being lost. The exact trigger depends on the magic in question. White magic is regained at the next sunrise, black magic upon the moon crossing the sky in full, demon magic after a full 8 hours of rest, divine magic after resting and praying to the cleric's god, and so on, as agreed between player and judge based on the nature of the character's magic. So, keep that in mind. Also, it's up to you as to like what the recharge on this is going to be. It's not always going to be that 8-hour rest or that short rest or that long rest. It's not always going to be the same thing for everybody like it is in some other role-playing games. Mercurial Magic. The firstborn son of a witch, hanged at trial, wields black magic adorately. An orphan raised by satyrs is a precocious student of druidry, Cosmic Caprice determines skill in magic, birth order, family lineage, horoscope, and matters even more abstruse have as much influence on a wizard's spellcasting as hard work and native intelligence. As a result, the effect of magical spell varies according to the one who casts it. A magical rite invoked by one mage may be more powerful or even different than the same ritual exercised by a peer. These variegations are not predictable, as the subtleties that produce them can never be fully cataloged. So what they're trying to say here in very verbose terms is that magic is magic-y. That's pretty much it. You know, magic is very different and mercurial and crazy, and things happen different for everybody. And the mercurial nature of magic is, turned into a mechanic in the game. The mercurial nature of magic is reflected in game to God. I gotta stop doing this. When a wizard learns a new spell, he rolls on table 5-2 to determine just how that spell manifests in his hands. The percentile roll is adjusted by their luck modifier, i.e., 10%. Their luck modifier times 10%, i.e., a +2 luck modifier counts as a 20% bonus on this check because it is a D percentile table. It's a D100 table. The player rolls on table 5-2 for every spell he learns, and the effect are specific to that spell. So these are corruptions that you may encounter from casting stuff. That'll be bigger on the core rulebook. But low-level wizards are powerful. High-level wizards fear for their souls. Continual use of magic results in changes. Exposures to demons, radiation from other planes, elemental energies in toxic quantities, and the servants of chaos all affect a wizard over the course of his career. Higher level wizards seek pacts with demons and elementals to sustain their health so they may continue to advance. Each and every time a wizard rolls a natural 1 on a spell check, they suffer the effect of the spell failure. Moreover, the spell check may misfire, and they may suffer corruption. The individual spell entries may include specific results associated with natural 1 on each spell check, as well as misfire and corruption results specific to the spell. Some results will further direct the player to roll one of the corruption tables, minor, major, or greater. If this is required, this roll is a D10 minus the spell's level plus the wizard's luck modifier on the table 5-3. Results for major and greater corruption are given in the DCC rulebook, but minor corruption is substituted for these quick start rules. In select circumstances, other modifiers may apply as well, e.g. a curse. Certain kinds of black magic may trigger corruption more often as indicated and adjusted by the spell table. So that's a lot to take in, but I think the main thing you need to remember here is that a lot of this stuff is going to be predetermined by the spell table itself. Predetermined by the spell table itself, and so you don't really have to take into account, the corruption effects of black magic on your characters. Unless you're writing your own spells, like I am. Luck to avoid corruption. A wizard that suffers corruption may burn a point of luck to avoid the corruption. The luck can be burned after the player rolls to determine the specific corruption result. Note that luck cannot be burned to avoid a spell misfire, only avoid corruption. Patron Taint is considered corruption for these purposes. So again, you can burn a point of luck to, not deal with some of this stuff. So this is going to be a much smaller table for the Mercurial Magic. Blood Magic, power of the spell is partially drawn from spilled blood, so you need a sacrifice. You get beneficial energies, 3-6 hit points. Disapproval, this is what the clerics got to roll on to see what they have to do to make their god less angry at them. Sometimes it's just a -1 penalty to all spell checks until the dawn. Cleric incurs -1 penalty to all attempts to lay on hands until he goes on a quest to heal the crippled. Quest of their own design, but generally speaking must result in significant aid to crippled, blind, lame, sickly, etc. Once this quest is completed, the deity revokes the penalty. While the penalty remains, it applies to all attempts to lay on hands, even if the normal disapproval range has been reduced back to a natural 1. So, moving on. We're into the spells now. So this is going to be the end of this series. I'm going to cover a single wizard spell, and I will cover a single cleric spell. I'm going to do Chill Touch. No, I'm going to do Magic Missile. Screw it. Magic Missile is the one everyone knows. So we're going to do Magic Missile here. And I'm going to cover this stuff briefly again. I let the tables are for the table, but we'll do a brief description here. The range is 150 feet or more. The duration is instantaneous. The casting time is an action or a turn. See below. Save none. General. The caster hurls a magic missile that automatically hits an enemy. Manifestation. You roll a d10. You see what it looks like. Is it a ball of lightning? Is it a screaming eagle with claws? Is it a force arrow? Is it a force dagger or a ray of frost or whatever? Who knows? It's up to you to either roll this or decide for yourself. Again, this is all fluff. It's good. It's whatever you want it to be. Corruption. This is if you roll a 1, you might get Corruption, Patron Taint, and a Misfire, or just Corruption, or Patron Taint, or nothing, you know? Different things. Your hands and forearms change color to match the shade most commonly associated with your magic missile. From now on, every time you cast Magic Missile, you turn invisible for 1d6 rounds. That's actually not bad. That's a really good corruption. You want that. Misfire. Roll 1d6. This is an explosion of missiles sprays in all directions. All creatures within 100 feet, allies and enemies, are hit by 1d4 minus 1 missiles, each doing 1 point of damage. So that's that's the worst misfire. Some other things happen potentially as it goes. So 1, you get those bad stuff. 2 to 11, lost and failed, so that you lose the spell for the day. 12 and up. The first result, you do 1 point of damage. You must have line of sight on the target. The missile never misses, though it may be blocked by certain magics, e.g. Magic Shield. And that applies up to... I think it applies to all of them. But here's the uppermost result. The caster throws 2d6 plus 1 missiles that do damage equal to 1d8 plus caster level. Each missile can be aimed at separate targets. Range is line of sight regardless of whether a direct path exists, e.g. the caster may launch a magic missile through a crystal ball or other scrying device. These missiles have limited ability to defy magic shield and other protections. Compare this spell check against the spell check used to create the magic shield. If the magic missile check is higher, the magic shield has only a 50% chance of being effective in this case. So, as you can see, it's variable. Your spell check is not just, what they're going to roll to try to dodge. It's how effective this magic's going to be. Are you casting 1 magic missile? Or are you casting a buttload of magic missiles? So we're going to move along here to a cleric spell, yeah. What do we got here? Oh, no. We got to go back, I guess. Yeah, here we go. Paralysis. Level 1 cleric spell. Range, touch or more. Duration, 1 round or more. Casting time, 1 action. Save, will save versus spell check. I'm going to move myself. So, manifestation is the crackle of electricity, black ropey binds, white pallor, or ethereal gray mist that happens. And basically, it's 1 through 11 is a failure, and you increase your disapproval range as a cleric. And then at 12 or higher, you start doing things. The cleric's hands and melee weapon are changed with energy of paralysis. The cleric may make a normal attack on his next round. If it succeeds, he causes normal damage, and his enemy must make a will save or be paralyzed. The paralyzed creature is unable to move or take any physical action for 1d6 plus caster level rounds. How cool is that? You're going to imbue your next attack with some extra magic. Well, that gets better and better, and it lasts longer and longer, up till 32 or above. Choose any one of the effects above, and the duration of the paralysis is permanent. The paralysis can only be cured via magical means, such as the cleric's ability to lay on hands or the spell Cure Paralysis. So, the highest written result, the cleric imbues his touch with the power to paralyze an enemy. The cleric retains the latent paralysis touch for up to 24 hours. At any point during that time, he may discharge the paralysis with a spoken word. A melee attack may be necessary to touch the resisting target. The creature touched will automatically be paralyzed. If 6 hit dice or less, creatures of 7 hit dice or more will receive a will save. The paralysis lasts 46 plus caster level hours. The next highest result after that one is choose any of the effects above, and the duration of the paralysis is doubled. So in that case, the paralysis would be 8d6 caster level, or 4d6 plus caster level hours times 2. Another thing you get in this quick start guide after the spells is the adventure Portal Under the Stars, which is a 0 level funnel, which will get you through this cool looking dungeon here, as well as an ad for the road crew. I'll touch real quickly on these DCC adventure modules and the road crew. The modules are always really, really well written, with minimal background story, but like good versatility between the background stories. Like it feels like it's all in the same world. And they're never mundane adventures. You're never going to go into like a tavern basement to kill some rats. And so it's always going to be like, oh, a dead god has called you forth to go into a demi-plane and face off against a demon that's been, entrapped for 1,000 years. That's the kind of level 0 funnel that you can expect from DCC. Never a mundane adventure, always going to be next level, and this is just the free adventure that comes with the quick start guide. It also comes with the core rulebook, but the core rulebook also, depending on which printing you get, is going to come with yet another adventure of a varying level. Now this over here is the ad for the Road Crew. The DCC RPG Road Crew is the version of the Adventurers Guild, or the Adventurers League, for 5th edition, except you can run whatever you want as long as it's a DCC or a Goodman Games base system. You can run third-party products, you can run homebrew stuff, you can hack everything and make it completely different. As long as you're just getting their rules out there and people are enjoying the game and getting educated on it and becoming interested in it, then they will send you free stuff for every game you run, up to 13 games. And the 13th prize is like a belt buckle. I think I have, this is my, hold on. Let me not drop my everything. Yeah, so here's my swag bag here. And let me just, I'm going to blow myself up on your screen here a bit. And hopefully none of this stuff's too green to see. But you'll get patches. They'll send out patches. The last time they did a road crew, their theme was wizard vans, so they sent out a bunch of bumper stickers. They've always got bookmarks that you can use for your DCC book for where your class is, even more bumper stickers. They really had a year of bumper stickers and really cool patches that I have yet to place on anything meaningful, as well as bottle openers. I got one of those on my my keychain there, and even like belt buckles, like full-on metal DCC RPG belt buckles that you can give away as like a tournament prize or something. And beyond. Honestly, I've gotten so much good stuff from Goodman, beyond just getting the free stuff. I mean, I think you do have to pay for shipping. But if you're going to pay for shipping, you might as well pay for, a $10 module as well. Just bang for your buck kind of thing. They'll send out free issues of Dragon Magazine as well, as other whatever fun stuff Goodman finds. He'll just send it out with you, as well as like con stickers on con weekends and other things of that nature. And here we go. We got the final little thing, the back page, featuring another excellent illustration along with the same words that we came in on. You are no hero. You are an adventurer, a reaver, a cutpurse, a heathen slayer, a tight-lipped warlock guarding long-dead secrets. You seek gold and glory, winning it with sword and spell, caked in the blood and filth of the weak, the dark, the demons, and the vanquished. There are treasures to be won deep underneath, and you shall have them. Thank you all so much for joining me on this Let's Read of the Dungeon Crawl Classics Quick Start Guide, available from goodmangames.com as a free PDF during the current unfolding, and available for $5 wherever your physical RPG supplements are sold. If you've been watching on Twitch, thank you for joining me on this stream, and if you've been watching on YouTube, be sure to give me a like, follow, or subscribe. As always, I've been Zach Lane, aka Judge Zed, aka Zacharias the Pious of House Lane, first of his name, former Lord of Givashidashir, Harbinger of Sass, and Holy Prince of the Sea of Ash, and Lord of the Game. And today, that game has been the only one whose maze craze plays for days in ways that will amaze days and set characters ablaze. Dungeon Crawl Classics. Have yourself a good week at the table, everybody. I'll see you next time.